Viktor Gyokeres to Arsenal for 65 million euros plus probably potentially plenty of add-ons. Let's see what the final fee is. A statement of intent. That's right. A statement of intent, because you really want this Premier League. You're sick and tired of second. Phase 9 fully loaded with your new gunman. You're calling him Gyokeres. So let's talk about him. Now, first of all, credit where it's due, because you did get something serious over the line. It was obviously needed up front. It's been the talk of the town for quite some time. And I've been standing in the back watching the fight on stage between Arsenal fans amongst themselves. The new gen versus the old gen. Arteta versus Berta. Style of play and underlying metrics and potential and the right fit versus goals, gunman. Maybe not digging so much deeper into the data, but don't really care to do so because they just want the finished article finally. And also Arteta has maybe already expired on his time in terms of what he wants as a signing. So maybe you do the opposite of what he wants at this point with the Havertz and other failed forwards. So how do I feel? Well, I'll start off with how I feel and then I'll get into the rest of it. But I genuinely am not angry. It's not because I don't rate what he does or what he can do for you. It's just because I can't be a hypocrite and say, oh, Arsenal have signed Gyokeres. I didn't want him. I wanted Osimhen. I felt like when we got Delap, we needed some aerial ability in our attack. And I feel like Delap is almost the baby version of Gyokeres a little bit, in some ways, in some sort of way. That's how I see it. But Gyokeres is obviously better in terms of what he's done. The goal tally speaks for itself. 39 goals in 33 games in the league, 6 goals in 8 in the Champions League, and 4 in 3 in the Cup. These are absolutely astonishing numbers. These are absolutely out of this world, emphatic, elephantastic, bombastic numbers. And anyone who says otherwise is lying. Now, of course, in the Premier League, you're expecting quite a drop-off between the numbers he's produced in Portugal and the numbers he'll produce in England, because this league is meant to be more physical, more difficult. However, even if it drops by 50%, that's still a good return, especially on the price point. You're expecting the guy to get 20 goals in the league. That is the aim for him. I do believe that, of course, there's penalties involved in this goal tally of his. He is the main penalty taker there. I'm expecting Saka to maybe give him the penalty duty just to get him into his swing of things, give him the momentum, the confidence, because he's in a new league. He's got the pressure on him to almost deliver you that title, not single-handedly, but be a very big contributor in it with the other signings that you make. So it makes sense to give it over to him. Saka's established. He knows what he does now. At this point, he performs on a yearly basis. He doesn't need the charity. He doesn't need the pens. So what I will say on this is very interesting. I'm very interested in this Gyokeres situation, because it's so anti-Arteta, as the data analysts and the younger fans say so. Sesko suited the style of play better. But that's not necessarily a good thing. Sesko versus Gyokeres, I understand where the olders are coming from, because at the end of the day, your play in the eyes of many, including myself, has regressed in the last year. Last season, even with the players available, and in parts the season before, I believe as well, you guys weren't as easy on the eye. You were more predictable. You were more controlling, more cagey in the way you played. It was a stark contrast from the first season where you challenged for the league, where it was danger. At all times, it was danger. Arsenal were free-flowing. You set an incredible pace at the top of the league. I think up until January, February, you were gone. No one could stop you. You were putting goals past people for fun. It was fast. It was unstoppable, unpredictable. And it was something that you felt like if you just build on that and stick with that, you'll win it. But then you got really defensive, you got really cagey, you got really predictable, really heavy on the crossing, looking for aerial duels and corners and set pieces, fighting for long throws against PSG. And it all started to stink a little bit in terms of the Arsenal way. So it's no longer Arteta's way. It may be Arsenal's way and Berta's way. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It gives you a different option. You already have Havertz. You already have Mikel Merino that can go up there. You already have Gabriel Jesus. That's 3 bites at the cherry. I know 2 of them were meant to be midfielders, but they ended up being forwards. That's 3 bites at the cherry to have your drop in deep floater, linker, flamboyant, flexible, positionally versatile, half 9, half space, 10 wide winger, inverted forward. Now it is probably time for goals. Now it is probably time for someone who's won the league prior at Sporting, who's dealt with the pressure of going up against other big clubs in that league. Yes, it's not as big as Arsenal, but it's still a pressurized situation to deliver on in Europe as well, playing at the highest level and performing, which Sesko is still, not quite banging in the goals just like that. Still needs to have that big breakout season where he sticks up 20-25 like a Hairline for you to really say that the data, etc., is leaning in his direction. And don't get me wrong, he could explode. But have you not wanked enough? Have you not already done enough foreplay now? Is it not time to just get the Gyokeres? Is it not ready to get some kickback? I think it is. And so I understand the old gen. As much as, yes, the system and the style, who says that's the right way to go? Now, I'm interested to see if there'll be tactical tweaks and there'll be changes that does advocate and understand a Gyokeres and put him into this team and make it make sense. And that's where I've been doing some thinking. If you're adding, just hypothetically, depending on when this is dropping the order of your transfer news, a Madueke, an Eze, and a Gyokeres to your front line. In your heads, you have what happened last season. In your heads, you have how you play. But what if you don't play that way anymore? What if you go back to more towards what you did at the start of these title challenges, which is direct football, transitions, breaking on teams quickly, getting the ball forward to your wide men faster. Martinelli profited and had quite the time under that regime instead of slow, methodical, safer, low risk, calculated, BODMAS, BIDMAS, algebra, fractions. If you're going to get the best out of Gyokeres, as much as he's competent as a footballer, he can do all of that, but you want him in behind. You want him running at goalkeepers. You want him almost Liverpool Klopp style. You want him like that, running that way, direct. And if that's what you plan to do, and this is where my thinking cap got put on, am I about to see potentially... And I don't like to talk about this in a formations perspective because it's zones. It's not symmetrical, what I'm speaking about. It's zones. It is an Eze more tucked in on the left. It is a Saka still holding width on the right. It is a Havertz dropping into that pocket that's left over, but still giving you an aerial threat, or Mikel Merino, an aerial threat, an extra man in midfield, and the link up, whilst Gyokeres kind of comes off that left channel, but still as a striker, crashing that box and gets you those goals. And Lewis Skelly can overlap, and Timber or Ben White can tuck into that back three. If you are following me, if you are understanding and comprehending what I'm saying, it sounds pretty damn delicious. And obviously, Declan Rice and Zubamendi in the midfield to protect. It's not symmetrical. It is a asymmetrical 4-2-2-2. But if that is the plan, and it does give Odegaard a kick up the arse because he's not in the team I just mentioned, but his form last season was nothing to smile about, then I see what you're cooking. And I'm not saying it's going to win you the league because you're going up against Hairline. You're going up against Salah. You're going up against Slot and Pep Guardiola. It's not going to be easy. There's no guarantees on winning the league. It's just purely challenge and pray to the high heavens that your team, at the end of it, is superior, victorious, and, peaks at the right time. But like I said, it's a statement of intent. And if that is something that you could work on or you are looking at potentially doing, you've got the creativity now in Eze. Someone that can play in the 10 but can play on the left. You've got Saka. Need I say any more? If it is Noni Madueke, whether I've said it in a video that's prior to this or after this, he's bench. He's benched to Saka. But you've got now, Gyokeres could be up front on his own, but because Arteta's so willing to have that guy that links up and holds up and doesn't go that way but comes more this way, then maybe that person still survives. Maybe Mikel Merino does play, in this team as that third midfielder, but he just does it further up and he does help the press. And there's just so many very interesting layers to this that I'm fascinated. I must say I'm fascinated. Am I scared? I'm cautious. I'm cautious. Am I scared? It depends on so many things. I think the player, we know what the player can do, what the player can't do. Aerially, he stinks. It's not a problem for you because you got plenty of aerial options in the centre backs, in the midfield, at the fullback. You got plenty of aerial options. But this guy aerially stinks. So in open play, and this is my second reason as to why I've said it the way I've said it. In open play, if you are putting in those crosses like you did, and Saka's got a delivery and Declan Rice has got a delivery, aerially, you're going to need someone else other than Gyokeres, because if he's not getting the goals aerially in Portuguese league, he ain't getting it in the Prem. No chance. So that's where the Mikel Merino comes in. That's where the Kai Havertz comes in. And I know these aren't these fancy, flamboyant players, but your manager is still Mikel Arteta, birthed at Everton. Yeah. So this guy, as much as you are in your head penciling a Rodrigo or an Eze with an Odegaard and a Saka and a Gyökeres up top on his own, do not be surprised if that extra man in there that links the midfield to the attack, not in the sexy creative way, but in the press, in the aerial duels, in the threat inside the box aerially, in the three-man midfield off the ball, and also just the extra man to help you compete against the other teams. And you're just wondering, what's this guy really doing in here? But he's always there. And that is where those other players come into it. And the reason why I mention it is because, yeah, they do sit on some high wages, Havertz, and they do cost some astronomical fees. So really, the whole you're on the bench situation and you're not going to be involved in an important factor is kind of lost on me. I think there is a way where it all goes in together. And probably Havertz is helped by playing in the front two, because he's not an out-and-out striker. He doesn't get loads of goals. You don't want to rely upon him for it, but if you put him in the front two, it's interesting. Like I said, I'm intrigued. More than you can't believe. So yeah, Gyokeres to Arsenal. 65 million euros, I believe, plus add-ons included, or additionally. But guys, let me know what you think in the comments. It's a very interesting situation. We'll be following it very closely. But I guess this does mean, at the very least, they are going for the league once again, which really should have been an assumption, but we just needed clarification and confirmation with the signings, because so far it's been plugging holes, filling in, cracks in the wall, Zubimendi replacing him, Norgard replacing him, Kepa replacing him, backups and all sorts. This is the first one that was needed, but not necessarily guaranteed. Guys, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Until then, big up your damn selves and a bit, people. Peace.